All right, whenever y'all ready. Yeah, we live.
God. Hey, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yah.
Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakodash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to the 144,000 of the elect. Unto you we say Shalom. Coming to you back with another Tuesday evening camp, side lesson, younger brothers,
Yeah.
prophesying the destruction of Babylon the Great, telling you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the true Israelites, to come back to the Heavenly Father before all hell breaks loose. Because what majority of the world doesn't know is that there is a famine brewing.
Yeah.
They think that the whole situation going on in the Strait of Hormuz that is only going to affect the prices of gas. But what people don't understand, when gas prices go up, that leads to everything else going up. That leads to the basic necessities from food, your groceries, your rent bill, your electricity bill going up, which is going to lead eventually to hyperinflation to the point where people aren't going to be able to afford groceries. People aren't going to buy no $200 loaf of bread. People aren't going to buy no 300 carton of eggs. And that's when people is going to riot and to say to hell with it. You know, we're not going to pay that. We're just going to go into these grocery stores and loot them up. And this is the times we're coming into, ultimately, because of Yahweh Bashim Shai's anger and wrath he has towards this world. But if you get that Revelation 6 verse 6.
And this is Revelation chapter 6, verse 6. It says, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine."
And this is going into hyperinflation. Because back then, a penny, going into the Greek word denarion, that's what the old, back in the Roman Empire, during the time of Yahweh Shai, that's what they were getting paid. They were getting paid a penny, a denarion, for a day's worth of work. But in today's system, you know, that would equal to what, about $200 to anywhere between $200 to $300. So that's the price that a measure of wheat, which ultimately is about, you know, a loaf of bread, that's the price it's going to come into, which is you know, letting you know that hyperinflation is right around the corner. But ultimately, that's coming to the wicked of our people, the 2/3, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And for these heathens, because here in America, this is the land of consumerism, consume.
Yeah.
Never taking a break. You know, always chasing after the next big thing. So that's why Yahweh Bashim Shai is about to put a stop to this gluttonous society. You know, that never, you know, they never take a break from eating. They never fast. They're, you know, brunch, you know, dinner, the breakfast, snacks in between. But you got it. I know you had a precept.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit of this um this effects of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the so-called closure, right? Um, all right, this is just like an AI overview. It says the closure of the Strait of Hormuz significantly disrupts global oil and gas supplies, as it is a critical transit route for about 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas. This distribution leads to rising energy prices, increased shipping costs, and potential economic crisis, particularly affecting Asian countries that rely heavily on energy imports from the Gulf, right? So countries like, you know, South Korea, Japan, India, they're getting smacked right now because, again, majority of their energy needs are imported, right? And that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. They might not get their oil and natural gas directly from Iran specifically, but since Iran controls the oil and gas that goes through that strait, right? All of the stuff from Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, it all has to flow through that Strait of Hormuz in order to get to Asia. So really, it's affecting Asia more so, you know, directly, you know what I mean, than the United States directly, because the United States Not only is it the world's largest producer of natural gas, but it gets its oil from, that it imports. It gets it from other places. You know, so it's really affecting the global economy, and not just the powers that are directly fighting each other. Yeah.
But just to add on to what the priest is going into,
Where should you raise your voice?
oh, this is how the Most High is literally, affecting, uh, Babylon the Great. See, through famine, through pestilence, you know. And this is Second Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. It said, He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And how is the Most High visiting the world? Again, like the priest is going into, through famine, through pestilence. Ultimately, it's going to be a famine of the word. You see? But now, as we're going into the, to the Passover, it's going to be a certain type of mindset that the elect are going to have. See? Because again, we're hastening the prophecies that are going to, be put forth on this place. We're hastening the famine. We're hastening the pestilence. We're hastening the destruction of this place. See? What you got?
Kind of usually right around the Passover. After the Passover, that's when the plagues start ramping up for this place.
That's right.
Because during the Passover, that's when a lot of curses get thrown up,
Mhm.
to the whole world, to the enemies of the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And Yahweh Bashim Shai is going to hear those prayers and those curses. And usually that's when things ramp up.
Right.
And ultimately, the time we're coming into, it's going to be all hell breaking loose. But only the remnant, the elect, know of those times. The rest of these people are still, going around the earth in that spirit, like before the flood, eating, drinking, giving into marriage. And you can see, the spirit that Noah was in, because it vexes you. You like, damn, these people, they don't give a damn. Gas is almost $5, but yet,
Right.
they don't seem to get affected. But the thing that is going to affect these people is when Yahweh Bashim Shai takes that food.
That's right.
Because 6 years ago, with 2020, he shut everything down. Yahweh Bashim Shai put the spirit upon Esau, Edom, to shut this thing down. People were dying, by the C-19, but they still had the comforts. They still had the food. They had the Netflix. They were in quarantine, chilling. But this shutdown that's right around the corner, it's not going to be like that. When there's no food in the grocery stores, when there's no trucks coming in because of the price of gas, that's when reality is going to start settling in for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, damn, why is this happening? It's been brewing up this whole year, but they weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Because it just like C-19, 2020.
Yep.
All the lockdowns and the shut.
Yeah.
Lock it up.
No, that's it. Yeah, well, that happened right after the Passover, like a week after the Passover. I remember we had it, and then right after that, like a week later, like, curfew, like everything, all of the non-essential workers, they was like, yeah, y'all got to stay home. And everybody thought it was gonna be a temporary thing. That shit lasted for months. You know what I mean? And then everybody was filing for unemployment. You know what I mean? Working at Amazon and shit. So, yeah, man, this place, it's on its last leg. I got a precept if you don't mind. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 21. It says, For Yahweh Bashim Yahushai shall rise up as in Mount Perazim, okay, which is one of the wars, or one of the battles that we had against the Philistines, all right, where we were triumphant over the Philistines. All right, it says, the Lord Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, shall raise up as in Mount Perazim. He shall be wroth as in the valley of Gibeon, that he may do his work, okay, his strange work, and bring to pass his act, his strange act. Okay, so the unusual deed, all right, or the strange act and work of the Lord, ultimately is him working on the minds of these shalom, brother. Him working on the minds of these leaders to continue to do what they've been doing, all right, because everybody knows, like, it doesn't make economic sense for the global, the global economy. It doesn't make a lot of sense to continue this war. It's kind of almost like a petty, like, skirmish, but the Lord's putting a spirit on these, on these devils, that run this country here, America, and also the devils over there in the state of Israel, are to continue to push this thing, man. And really, the world stage knows, everybody knows that Iran is just defending itself. You know what I mean? Iran is just defending itself. You know what I mean? And anybody that doesn't condemn the United States and the state of Israel for what they're doing, they're demons too. They're in league with them too. Okay, you got it, bro. Y'all got it. Yeah, yeah. You can sit up in there.
This is Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction.
God, and that's what's right around the corner. Because Yahweh Shemiel Shai is about done playing games with these people in the world, with the 2/3 of our people. They're thinking that Yahweh Shemiel Shai is not about to work upon the planet Earth. And he's working. Because what's right around the corner too is the mass implementation of the RFID micro CHIP, which is the MOTB. And that's what Esau Edom is going to require the world to take so they can have a form of normality again.
Yeah.
Because what these people are so used to is that normality bias.
Yeah.
Disasters taking place all over the world, but yet here in America, as long as it don't come near their front doorstep, they don't care.
Yeah.
These Americans are willing to keep paying $5, $6, $7 for a gallon of gas, as long as they give them their 9 to 5, as long as they could continue, to go on vacation.
Yeah.
That's all about to be done away with very soon.
Yeah.
Because Yahweh Shemiel Shai is about to put the spirit on his devil to close this thing down again.
Yeah.
You already have Australia and countries on the other side of the world.
Oh yeah, New Zealand.
Talking about, they haven't made it official, but that's where it's heading.
Well, the supply chain, it's all about the supply chain. So if you get X amount of your energy, which comes in the form of crude oil and natural gas, right? Let's say you have the refineries in your country to, basically convert those raw materials into usable forms of energy, right? Diesel, regular gasoline, jet fuel, all those different applications. Well, guess what? If you're not getting those shipments in, if you need X amount of barrels per day, and you're getting 50% or 20% of what you normally got last month, well, your economy is going to slow down massively. Yeah, you might have what they say strategic reserves, right? Like certain countries have strategic reserves, but that might be maybe a week's worth, 2 weeks, a month worth of fuel, and then after that you're gone. So then what? Like after the supply chain gets rerouted, right? And the energy needs that you were getting that were coming out of the Strait of Hormuz are rerouted. You got to go because I saw a map. There was basically boats going around the Horn of Africa on the west side instead of going like to get to like India and shit. Instead of going through, you good if you want to walk through. Instead of going through the Strait of Hormuz, going around fucking South Africa to get to Europe, to get to Asia. I mean, and obviously, so when it finally does arrive, right, when the resources do arrive there, it's going to be way more expensive because the cost of transportation to get it, on the alternate route is going to be way more. So not only is the supply chain being disrupted for certain of these countries like Australia and New Zealand, but when it finally does get there, all right, it's going to be way more expensive. To the point where a lot of airports, they're just gonna have to say, look, we don't got no jet fuel. You know what I mean? So shutting down commerce, like, you know what I mean, on a major way. So yeah.
And a lot of different transportation. It comes from airplanes. It comes from cargo airplanes.
Yeah.
From other countries.
Yeah.
And eventually, first it's gonna be the commercial. All the people and their flights. That's the first thing that's gonna get shut down. And you already have a lot of agencies talking about we're about to shut this thing down. We don't have the funds, we don't have the money. The cost of fuel is constantly going up, so that's going to lead to shutdowns. To just like what happened in 2020, it's going to lead to those type of shutdowns again. And at first they may say, oh, it's gonna be a week long thing, a 2 week long thing, to slow it down. But you know how he saw Hebrews, he's gonna let it continue on forever.
This is Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 6. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and the earthly work fulfilled.
Right, and that's what's happening. You see all this wickedness going around, especially from our people, the 2/3 around the earth, like nothing's happening. And like it says, when you look at evil, that's an abomination. Majority of our people, they're just walking down the earth, not giving a damn what's going on, because they think it don't affect them. Very soon. How much Shot's about to make it? He's about to make it manifest to these 2/3. He's taking that spirit of father in the house of earth. But all those great foods. But when your stomach's touching your ribs, that's when you're gonna want to call upon Yahweh Bashim Shah. That's when they're gonna call upon God, upon JC, but they're not gonna get an answer because when the word was really going out, what was they doing? Driving around, walking around in that spirit of eating, drinking, giving into marriage, because they never seen a famine. They never seen nukes being shot off. So all these prophecies they sound far off they sound far fetched to Jacob.
I mean, just to add on what he's going into, a great humbling is definitely needed in these times, man. See, people are still proud, they're still, have a haughty mindset. See, we're going into the Passover where you should be in a contrite spirit, right? Because some of the key components of the Passover is what? The hastening of our Lord and Savior returning, right? Being spiritually prepared as far as mentally removing yourself from this wicked place, turning away from this wicked place, and ultimately completely having trust in our Lord and Savior for protection, man. But our people, man, are not in that type of mindset, man. They still want to celebrate, like we going into gas prices going up high, all this turmoil is happening in the Middle East, and people still on the ride now like shit ain't happening, man. Okay.
Yeah, I got some more of this. This is an article from morethanshipping.com that came out March 25th. It says the Strait of Hormuz is not just about oil, but many other commodities. Because people think, obviously oil, which is a big thing, but what all things come from, come out of the Strait of Hormuz, other than, well, that's what it's going to go into, right? So it says major shipping lines have suspended operations through the Strait of Hormuz and have also stopped or reduced transit through the Red Sea, and instead are opting to route vessels around the Cape of Good Hope, which we talked about. With That's all the way fucking around Africa, South Africa, man. Right? It it says once again adding 10 to 14 days to transit times. Right? So everything coming 2 weeks later. Okay, and additional costs to those sailings. It says Jebel Ali in the United Arab Emirates is the world's ninth largest container port, along with the rest of the Gulf region. It handles 26 million containers annually, with 80% being transshipped containers. Here are approximately 150 ships. Excuse me. There are approximately 150 ships with 450,000 containers waiting to transit the strait. So the goods are just sitting there on the docks and not able to do shit, right? So it says according to a 2025 U.S. Department of Energy report, the Strait of Hormuz is recognized as one of the most important oil choke points. Okay, and so you got oil and petroleum byproducts. Okay, it says shipments through the strait represent 30% of the oil trade and 20% of the LNG, which is liquid natural gas trade worldwide. So 30% of all of the oil and 20% of all the natural gas worldwide pretty much is effectively shut off, right? Um, and so it says Saudi Arabia is the largest exporter of oil. So it's not just about Iran's oil not getting sent out to, like, no, they're blocking Saudi Arabia. They're blocking these other countries that basically have nothing to do with Iran, that may be partners of the United States. You know what I mean? Allies of the United States, but they're blocking off them ports, right? It says, so this is how they're messing with Europe, right? It says 80% of liquid natural gas passing through the strait goes to Asia, while 20% goes to Europe. So it's not affecting the United States. It's not affecting the United States directly like that, right? Because again, we don't get our natural gas from the Strait of Hormuz. 80% of the 80% of the oil and I'm sorry, what was it? 80% of the liquid natural gas goes straight to Asia. It says oil prices. Oh, I'm sorry. Stop me whenever you're ready, bro. It says oil prices have increased 50% since the conflict began. However, it is the products that are made from petroleum products that could be severely affected. It says India, China, Southeast Asian countries, and East Africa are the most affected by Middle East supply shortages. It says petroleum is used in the manufacture of naphtha, which is a critical component for plastics. These are the types of secondary products that will be impacted by price increases or shortages. So everyday household products that you buy from Walmart, or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Over there, like, they're not getting the fundamental. I mean, I don't know how to make plastic, but imagine if, like, you know what I mean, like the main ingredient for plastic is just cut off. Like, you know what I mean? For a lot of countries, like, okay, well, damn, that's gonna affect a lot of shit. So y'all got it.
Another thing too is the fertilizer.
Yeah.
Now we're in the springtime when all the seeds start to get planted, so the crops can grow. And if they don't have fertilizer coming in, well, what is that going to lead to?
Yep.
That's going to lead to crops not growing like they're used to.
Yep.
The harvest is not going to come during this year, which is further leading to famine because the U.S. it doesn't really grow anything like that.
Oh, hold on, we got some scoffers. I wasn't looking. Uh, it says somebody said nobody really watches you guys. Best for you to repent and become a Christian. You folks are lost. I suggest join a real church. Have a good night. Which that shows you the mindset of the average person. You know what I mean? The average, and that goes right into the title of this lesson, right? The famine of food, water, and the hearing of the word. So guess what? Whenever, things get worse for people here in America, because it's already bad. It's already been getting worse and worse for people in other countries, but they're going to be calling on Jesus, you know? But did you want me to get the part where it talks about the fertilizer? Okay. It says on the same article, fertilizer, according to the United Nations, about 1/3 of the global fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. It says nitrogen fertilizer is produced from natural gas. Fertilizer accounts for a significant share of the production costs of many agricultural products, just over a third of each for both corn and wheat. When fertilizer prices increase, it has a significant impact on the production of crops and makes them much more expensive. It says many countries in the region rely on fertilizer from the Persian Gulf. For example, Sudan imports 54%, Sri Lanka imports 36%, Australia imports 32%, and Somalia 30% of their fertilizer from the Persian Gulf. Many of these countries are poor, and a significant increase in prices for fertilizer could lead to food shortages. So the ones that are affected the most are the poor countries. You know what I mean? I mean, Australia is an outlier. Australia is not as poor, but a lot of these countries that nobody thinks about, right? Sri Lanka just several years ago, their what's it called? Economy basically collapsed. They defaulted on their loans, and they couldn't pay their shit. So their currency just collapsed a few years ago. So a lot of these, like, and nobody's talking about it because it's like, okay, well, it's not happening here in America. Who gives a shit? But a lot of these, like, other, like, smaller countries, they're getting jacked up, like, really badly. You know.
This Second Ezra chapter 6. I'm gonna get verse 22. It says, "And suddenly shall the sown places appear unstoned; the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty." So right now we're in the beginning stages of it, man. As war ramps up more,
That's gonna lead to it not being freely accessible all the gas that they need to transport for trucks, airplanes. See, then also to add on to that as well, they freaking keep shutting the government down. So with these shutdowns as war ramping up,
Yeah.
you're gonna get ready to see a great shortage of food, a great shortage in the goods that could normally used to happen, like having easily accessible, man. If I may add as well, they're also having people destroy their crops. They've been doing that for years. Like, I'm a baby in this thing, barely came in some years ago, but guess what? When I first came in till now, they've been destroying a lot of farmers' crops. Like ever since like 2020 to that little time period from there, I know brothers can testify. You've been seeing them articles about them destroying people crops, burning up crops, paying farmers to not be able to plant their stuff, right? So they can have all this artificial stuff, and people be having to eat fake stuff, man. So that's showing that famine is getting raised up, like the brother's going into.
Yeah, because it affects everything. It affects crop share in America. It affects the fishers. Those fish boats, they require a lot of diesel, to maneuver around the sea, in the different fishing parts they fish at. And if they can't afford that diesel, that's going to lead to the fishers just saying, "To hell with it." We're not making a profit. It's costing us too much, just to catch the fish. That's just going to further the famine. People are hurting their cattle because it's not benefiting them as it used to. This is all being formulated ultimately by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Yeah, you can call it a man-made famine. Esau might be the one that's pulling it up, but ultimately it's the Lord that's putting it upon the spirit of this devil to do that.
Exactly. I got precept whenever y'all ready. Con. This is Isaiah chapter 19, and let's see here. All right, verse 4, and I'll drop down. Isaiah chapter 19 and 4 says, "And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord." Okay, aka a fierce king. Okay, who's the king of Babylon the Great right now? Trump, man. Donald J. Trump. Okay, it says, "And a fierce king shall rule over them," saith the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai of hosts. Okay, it says, and I'll switch over to the NLT. Okay, I'm gonna drop down to verse 8. It says, "The fishermen will lament for lack of work. Those who cast hooks into the Nile will groan, and those who use nets will lose their heart." Okay. Ultimately, the individuals that's trying to you know bring in resources, food. Okay. That pain that these other nations are experiencing, people are gonna be experiencing it here as well. Okay. It says, "There will be no flax for the harvesters, nor no thread for the weavers. They will be in despair, and all the workers will be sick at heart." Okay. So again, the individuals that are making money over here, that's of the working class, is going to come to a halt here too in Babylon the Great as well. Right now, it's just the precursor. We're seeing the precursors of those those workings being ceased in other places. Okay, but as trade continues to decline, and what they call a geo or basically a global like recession, basically, is gonna be it's gonna be felt by everyone. Okay, y'all got it.
This is Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 16. It says, "Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment."
Yeah, going into the food rationing. Whenever everything gets shut down, you're not going to be able to go into the grocery store and buy you 5 packs of 24 packs of water. 10 dozen eggs, 10 loaves of bread. No, those days, they're about to be done away with. Esau, he was about to start a rationing system. He could only get this much, this much, because we don't have as many imports coming in. That's leading into just like it said in Revelation chapter 6, a measure of wheat for a penny.
Yeah.
A day's worth of work.
Well, that's already happened. Remember, there was a supply chain shortage of whatever it was, and then they would put the little sticker on the in the grocery store, one per customer. You know, everybody was buying, you know, pounds of shopping carts full of toilet paper and, you know, different things like, you know what I mean, everyday things, people trying to stock up on it. Okay, so imagine when the supply chain really gets cut off. Who what you gonna wipe your ass with? When you've been using toilet paper for decades, you know what I mean? You know? So yeah, man, these people gonna feel it, man. You know?
And you have all these doomsday preppers, you know, the Canadian preppers, talking about go to the stores and buy everything now, you know, prepare
Yeah.
because of what's coming. That's leading to, you know, the further panic buying, you know, where people are buying in bulk, you know, leaving the stores dry. And that's all by design as well, you know, because you do have a lot of what's called control opposition, you know, that's telling these people to go out there and panic buy. So when all hell breaks loose, these stores are gonna already be dry.
Yeah.
You know, and he saw, you know, he's gonna be like, oh, you know, we're dry, we don't have anything. You might have a shipment coming in 2 weeks, but as of now, we're out of water, we're out of bread, we're out of eggs, you know, we're out of medications. You know, a lot of people need those medications, you know, just to function in their daily lives, but that's gonna be cut out as well.
Oh, go ahead. Well, go ahead. I got something talking about medication, but go ahead.
This second Ezra 15, I'm getting straight to the point, verse 19, and you got it, bro. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house with sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation.
Yeah, and that's the times we're coming into when all these neighbors, you know, they've been your neighbors for years. They've been looking at you bring all these groceries in. A lot of these people, they're keeping an eye out for who is bringing, you know, food in, food out, and those are just the houses they're gonna hit first. They're gonna know, oh, that house, you know, they're well stocked. You know, they're always buying groceries every 2 days, every 3 days, and then you're gonna have these dumbass preppers talking about, oh, I'm gonna be good. I don't have to worry about famine. Those are the ones that are gonna get hit first because these people they've been watching, they got their address, they got their IP addresses. They're gonna know who to hit first. These doomsday preppers, the Canadian preppers, you know, the Southern all these preppers have been talking about get ready for this famine. Yeah, we're going that. That was cool. You got it, I know.
Yeah. Just on this same article that I was reading earlier, another one of the things. So I'll just read out the quick list of the things that are most commonly passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, oil and petroleum byproducts, liquefied natural gas, helium, aluminum, fertilizer. Um, those are the main ones. Now, regarding helium, okay, it says 30%, about 30% of the world's helium supply comes from Qatar. Okay, so with the strait closed, that means higher prices for technology, manufacturing, and advanced medical care. So all of the like semiconductors and stuff like that, you know, the manufacture of semiconductors, helium, it says is a key input in the manufacture of semiconductors. So it says since most helium is produced as a byproduct of natural gas, that means that any problems with the production of liquid natural gas will reflect in helium as well. So the shutdown of Qatar's LNG facility also causes a shutdown of Qatar's helium production. So you know, again, semiconductors, prices of technology, and things like that can go up as well, which will affect the medical sector.
And that's another thing too. Whenever there is, you know, a blackout, and like in Cuba, those hospitals they're not keeping their patients alive like that. You know, they're not able to treat them because they don't have no electricity. They have to ration their energy, and that's what's coming to Babylon the Great too. You have all these different hospitals, all these different clinics. You know, when all that electricity gets shut off, you know, those are some of the first people that are gonna, you know, go back to the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
Copy. You say yes.
This is Psalms chapter 105. I start at 10 and then I jump down to 16. It says, I start at which covenant he made with Abraham and his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying, unto thee I will give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance. Right? Verse 13. When they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people, he suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes, saying, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Moreover, this is the point, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread.
Yeah, that's what we're coming into, this breaking of the staff of bread, because famine is all throughout the scriptures. During the time of Joseph, when there were 7 years of plenty, and then there were those 7 years of famine, and that plenty, it was forgotten because during the famine, like it says when in the time of prosperity or in the time of affliction, everybody forgets about their prosperity.
Right.
So when all these people's stomachs are touching their backs, they're not going to remember, oh, yeah, I ate McDonald's last week. Why I ate this and that?
Yeah.
No, they're going to be thinking about where their next meal is going to come from. The majority of the world, they're not thinking like that right now, especially here in America, Babylon the Great. These people are so accustomed to eating 4, 5, 6 times a day, snacks in between. They've never fasted a day in their life.
Oh yeah.
So when it finally hits them, they're gonna be like, man, what the hell?
And they're, oh, my bad, go ahead.
And that's when Esau Edom is gonna come in with that solution and the RFID micro C, which is an MOTB.
Yes. Because the fact that Esau put sugar in everything, so once they're not able to, get that fix, because they're addicted to that. Once they're not able to get that fix, they're gonna bug out. They're gonna sell each other out. You know what I mean? They're gonna start, eating their pets, eating, you know what I mean? Crazy shit, And then all the scoffers, because you got scoffers here. This is why I kind of like I copy Tazamai. He do it the parallel way, so that way more people can click. Click the feed, and some scoffers. No, of course no. That's why I'm gonna do. Lord willing, I'm gonna do a response video. It said, and you still got people commenting. It says, guy in the middle and this just shows you the mental state of the average person, right? Like they don't take things seriously. You know what I mean? Why would you take something seriously if other people are suffering in other countries, but you're not suffering in your own country? Who cares, right? That's the mentality of Babylon the Great. But it says, one dude said, guy in the middle, try not to laugh. Another one said, look, it's Jewish cosplay. You got your hope boys there, don't you? And then another said, you guys need some milk. So it's all like a game, like a TikTok skit to them. Like they think that this is just like a little thing. They don't understand how gravely serious this is. Okay. Not until, again, the Lord starts judging, right? Not until the Lord starts basically performing the things that he said he was gonna do. The famine, the pestilence, the sword. Okay. Matter of fact, what's that? That's in Ezekiel 35. I'm about to see if I can find it.
Man, the laughter, that's going towards you scoffers, because like it says, the Yahweh Shema Shai is gonna laugh at their calamity through his prophets, through his men. So in that day, when the scoffers and mockers, when their stomach is touching their ribs, it's not gonna be funny no more. Mm-hmm. It's not gonna be funny when you don't have a bottle of water at the reach of your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's Proverbs 19:29. It says, judgments are prepared for scorners and stripes for the back of fools. So all these people that's talking noise, that's all cool, that's cute. Talk your little shit, have your little good laugh, that's okay. The Heavenly Father is putting in most of these people's spirit to come against the prophets, like he did in past times, so he can bring judgment, man. See, the Lord wants to kill majority of the people on the planet Earth. That's what we don't understand, man. See, the Lord that we worship, he controls evil and good. And guess what? He's going to bring great evil upon Babylon the Great, being America. So majority of our people are in that spirit of following America, following the ways of wickedness. See, basically putting sin at the forefront. All this wickedness, all this evil idol worship. See, it's the same things being amongst each other, drugs, all this stuff. They're down with it. The little hats being in power. So eventually, how about Yahweh Shai is going to give you over into that? What's the judgment for somebody following Babylon and Great America? You down with these little hats? It's judgment, death, man. Got it, bro.
Is that Ezekiel 35:13?
Yeah, is that it?
I don't know.
I got this one here.
Okay.
In Ezekiel 25. But yeah, if it goes into it, of course, bring it out. This is
Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 13. Thus with your mouth ye have boasted against me, and have multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the spirit of majority of our people, the 2/3 and these heathens. They're constantly talking shit. They think that they're talking shit to the to the men that are pushing this word out, but really they're coming against Yahweh Bashim Shai, because that's where the message comes from. It comes from the Lord. It don't come from us. It's Yahweh Bashim Shai speaking through his servants, the prophets. And the Lord is telling you, scoffers, you mockers, you're gonna get judged, whatever that judgment it may be.
Yeah.
There be many spirits created for vengeance, and the main one that is coming is famine.
Yeah.
That's beautiful that you said that, because again, you're mocking, but again, that famine of the word is coming, and then you're going to be judged by the actual faith.
Yeah.
See, so you're not hearkening to the men of the Lord who are trying to warn you of the destruction of this place so that you can get right with your power. Rather, you scoffing, and ultimately you're marking yourself. So when the Most High judges you with actual famine, then you'll know that the men of the Lord were actually, preaching the truth, man.
Yeah, just read that last verse and we'll close out.
This is Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 15. As thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it.
Yeah, so
They shall know that I am the Lord.
So this is coming towards these people in Babylon the Great. These Edomites, these other nations, and these 2/3, right? Because they hate and despise Yahweh Bashim Shai. But that was pretty much the point. We pray that this was edifying. We want to give all praises, honor, and glory to
Yahweh Bashim Shai Bashim Kakodash.
double honors to the apostles and elders who we learned this truth from as well. Peace, salutation to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you we say shalom.
Shalom.